Welcome to the online children's program from Leaside United and Rosedale United Church here in Toronto. I am Roberta with our handy-dandy assistant, Couscous. Hello, Couscous. Today we are celebrating what we did on last Wednesday, which was Epiphany, the day when the Magi arrive at Jesus' manger and they see the new baby. For today, we're going to do a craft, have a prayer, learn a story. It's going to be a great time. Come join us. For today's activity, you are going to need the following: a flashlight, a piece of black construction paper, some cardboard or other board that you aren't using, and a nail and a thumbtack. If you're watching online live, this is the time to try to grab everything you need. If you're watching on YouTube, take a moment to pause the video and get all you need. Now, let's get started. Now let's light the Christ candle together. Do you remember why we light the Christ candle every week? It's to remind us all of the light that shines within each and every one of us. Today, I ask us to take a moment and just center ourselves before we begin with our story. All that we're going to do is sit on our chairs or our couch or our floor with our legs crisscross applesauce, and we're going to do a little stretch. Ready? We start with our hands like this, and we breathe in as big as we can, and we stretch our arms forward, stretch, 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 stretch. And out. As far as we can, like starfish. And back down. We're going to do it one more time. Ready? Hands together like this. Push your hands together as hard as you can. Push, push, push. And breathe in. And forward. Wiggle your fingers. And stretch out like a starfish. And blow out. Excellent. Our arms are stretched. We took some deep breaths, and now we are ready to get into today's activities. Before Jesus was born, a new star appeared in the sky. This is the story of the Magi. 3 wise men who knew of the stars, knew what they meant, and decided to follow and see if they can find the newborn king. Far from Jerusalem, high in the eastern mountains of Persia, strangers were watching the skies. They were Magi, people so wise they seemed to possess magic. The Magi gathered wisdom and knowledge from every place. They were always reading and watching and listening and wondering about the meaning of things. One night they saw a new star. At least, it looked like a star, but it did not act like one. Instead of staying in one place, it went its own way, wandering like a planet. It was not on any of their star charts. What is it, they wondered? What does it mean? A star like that must tell of something important, like the birth of some great person. They decided to follow it. We want to know the truth, they said to one another. How will we know unless we follow the light? The Creator of the stars will show us the way. The Magi followed that star all the way to Jerusalem. At home, they were used to dealing with kings and important people, so they went first to the palace of King Herod. King Herod ruled the lands around Jerusalem, even though it was the Romans who really held the power. The Magi told Herod about the star they had seen. They had wondered if he knew anything about the birth of a new king. A new king? Herod's eyes narrowed. What if these strangers were right? Fear took hold of him, fear of losing his power. Herod did not want to know the truth. He just wanted information he could use. So, he lied. "Go and find this king," he said. "When you do, be sure to come back and tell me so I can go and bow down to him." But the Magi were wise and did not trust King Herod. The star led them to Bethlehem. When they found Jesus, they were overjoyed. They gave him the gifts they had brought with them: gold, because it does not tarnish, and a true king values things that last; frankincense, for prayer, because a true king seeks wisdom through being still and listening for God; myrrh, for healing and to anoint the dead, because a true king seeks to heal rather than harm, and a true king knows that death comes before new life. On their way home, the Magi talked about the star, how it caught them by surprise, roaming freely around the world, how it scattered its gift of life far and wide, how it broke open a story about one people and made it a story for all. The Magi were curious. To be curious means to see something in the world and question why it's there. Asking people around you, trying experiments, or learning more about it in order to learn why the world is the way it is. I wonder if there's things that we're curious about in our life. Maybe why the sun rises and sets, or seasons change, or people laugh or cry. These are things that we can be curious about ourselves and ask questions to seek those answers. For today's activity, we are going to make our own little planetarium. Remember at the story when the Magi, what did they follow? That's right, they followed a star that had never been in the sky before, and it led them to Jesus. So we're going to take a look at how to do that ourselves. All we have to do is put the piece of cardboard down. The piece of cardboard is to make sure that we are not stabbing holes into our tables or our floors. Piece of construction paper. And we can use either the little nail or the thumbtack, and we're going to poke holes in here in the shape of different constellations or star patterns, and that way we have our own stars that we can gaze at when it's not nighttime. So there's two ways you could do this. One is you can use real constellations that exist right now, that if you went outside at night and you looked for these constellations, you could find them. And they have lots of star maps online that show you where all of these stars are positioned, or you can make your own up. For me, I'm going to do a bit of both, I think. So, making sure you always have a parent nearby so that no one accidentally pokes a finger. We just poke, 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 poke some holes. I think I'm going to put the big star right about here. So that one, we poke a hole, we wiggle it around, make it nice and large. Just poke a little bit more. There. That's a nice large star hole. And now we can add whatever patterns or star shapes we want as well. I think I'm going to put in, let's see, do you guys know this one? You start with stars that look a little bit like a square. And then it goes up. And you get a little handle. Like that. That one is called the Big Dipper, and it looks like a little drinking jug, or some people have said that it looks like the shape of a bear. So we have that one there. I'm going to draw a little happy face because I can. And I'm going to poke some other random stars here. while I'm poking some holes into the paper, I'm wondering, why did the Magi go look at the stars anyway? They didn't have to. They could have just stayed home. They could have just stayed with their families. There's nothing that said they had to go anywhere, right? So why did they start looking at the stars? Well, the people way back then, they thought that the stars could tell them not just that it was nighttime. The stars told them what season it was, when to plant things. It told them where things were, not just with the star where Jesus was, but with things like different constellations, saying whether they were north or south or which ocean they were in. They also had stars that told them if the gods were angry or if the gods were happy with them. They had stars that told them if there was going to be a flood. They had stars that told them if it was going to be a good year for their village. And so they developed curiosity. They developed the ability and the desire and the talent to keep looking at all of these stars and seeing important shapes and patterns in them. And once you start seeing enough shapes and patterns and things, they start to tell a story. So I'm gonna keep finishing poking some holes in here, and then we're going to use our handy dandy flashlight and see what the stars have for us. All right, Couscous, you're just in time to see our stars in action. Is there anything that you see in here? I see a little heart, some happy faces. What do you see, Couscous? I think we're going to have to use our imagination and some light. And so when you hold up our constellations to the light, you can see some interesting shapes in here. I can see a happy face. I can see a heart. I can see the Big Dipper. I even see one, it's 3 stars in a straight line. That's called Orion's Belt. So we can see lots of stars up there. And I think if you look up at this one, that one looks a little bit bigger than the others, right? A little bit larger, not quite where it's supposed to be. I wonder if the Magi followed that star. They followed their curiosity. They sought out what they thought was important, and it led them to a baby. And so as we go into the world, let us give thanks for the gift of curiosity that God has given us, and keep asking those questions. We'll see you next week.